spaces. You have rolled a double. Any double, you would come back 2 spaces. Now watch what happens to you. You go back 1, 2. You land on the start position. When a player is forced onto the start position, this player is whoopsied. And he would go into the whoopsie slot, and he too would need doubles to move. Okay? Well, let's look at the role that the game is named after. Oopsy-Woopsy, the infamous Oopsy-Woopsy role. Okay? Well, let's just say that the game is in progress, and this is how it lines up. Could be anywhere on the board. Let's just say it's right here. Now, I would be the bookie, of course. You're behind me on space 2. Now, you tell me what happens if you rolled an oopsie and I rolled the oopsie. Okay? Who backs up? You tell me who backs up. If you said both players back up, you're right. That is the Oopsy-Woopsy roll. Now, how far back do they go? Well, when all the players roll the oopsie, they all back up to the start position, and they are whoopsied on the start position. They all clear back to the start position. Their markers are placed in the whoopsie slot, and they all need doubles to get out. Isn't that devastating? You see why that's such an infamous role? And that is the most infamous defensive role, the Oopsy-Woopsy. Okay? Now, you're doing real good. You are doing real good. I'm going to play you another game. But first, I want to show you the most exciting offensive role called the rush. Okay? Now, I know you're going to say, hey, Lou, wait a second, but watch why the rush line is called the rush line and not the finish line. Okay? Now, we know the ultimate defensive role. That was the Oopsy-Woopsy. This is the ultimate offensive role, the rush. Okay? Watch what happens on the very first roll of the game. Okay? Now, you're going to roll, and you roll 8. Okay? And I roll the oopsie. Ah, this is incredible. On the first roll of the game, there is no oopsie. It only counts as number 3. Okay? It's a low, non-double roll. However, you have an 8, and you are allowed to move 1 space. You move up, and now the oopsie is alive because now there's a player out on the game board, and he can be drawn backward. Okay? Now, watch what happens here. You, on the next roll, let's say you roll an oopsie against me. I'm on the start position. Supposing you roll an oopsie against me, you are safe, or I am safe from the oopsie. I can't go backward. I can neither go off the board to backslaw, nor can I be forced into the whoopsie slot. My dice don't count, but I can't be forced backwards. So what happens? What happens to the bookie rolling an oopsie against me? Well, he's going to pick up my roll and move ahead on it. That's called the rush. Now let's watch this roll. How many spaces will he rush ahead? On a 9, the bookie would go ahead 1 space, okay? Now let's do that again. The board stays the same way. You're the bookie. You roll an oopsie against every other player on the start position. You can't force them backward. Are you penalized for it? Does the roll not count? No, the roll does count. You are on the rush. You're the only player out on the game board. And when you roll an oopsie against the players on the start position, you go ahead. How many spaces? The highest roll rolled by your opponents. Now, on this case, it's me. How many spaces would you go ahead? 1 on a non-double. You would rush ahead 1 space, okay? Now, what would happen, say that you won the next roll and you got down in the win positions. Now, if this game was electronic, this little dot here, called the rush win, would be blinking. because this means that the bookie, and only the bookie, is out on the game board. He's down in the win positions. And if he rolls the oopsie from this space, let's just say you rolled the oopsie and I rolled a double for you. See, I roll the double 6. What happens? You would pick up that double and go in to win the game on the rush. Okay? Now, that is the ultimate way to win the game of Oopsy-Woopsy on the rush. Now, you're really doing good. I am going to play you another game. I'm going to try and get back at you from winning that last game. Now, you are going to be the red player with the red dice. I'm going to roll for green, and I'm going to roll for black. So I'm really going to get serious with you. I'm going to beat you this time. Okay, now we're going to play a game with the 3 players, but I want you to pay particular attention to a few rolls. I want you to watch the way the bookie handles the board. Okay? I want you to pay attention to the oopsie and the way it affects the other players. I want you to pay attention to the win positions and the subtle differences between them. And I also want you to pay attention to holding the line, which I will explain to you, okay? So the game begins when everyone rolls their dice, so let's roll. All right, now let's see what we got here. We have 11 on green, okay? 11 on green looks like the highest roll to me, right? So 11 moves out on the game board, 1 space, and he becomes the bookie, right? No one can roll before green. So green's going to roll first, and he rolls a double 5, okay? The other players roll, and we have 11 by black, okay? So we know the a double 5 beats all those rolls, so the green moves up 2 spaces, okay? 1, 2, okay? And green is the bookie, and what else about the bookie? He is on a rush, right? If he rolls the oopsie against the players on the start position, they're safe from the oopsie, but the bookie can go ahead on their highest roll. He rushes ahead. Okay, so we have green out in the lead. He rolls a 4. Okay, we have the other players rolling, and we have a 10 on red. You're going to get out, right? You're high. You get out 1 space on the 9 double 10. Now, are you the bookie? No. Green's still the bookie. Green's rolling down the line. We have a 6 on green. All right, and I'll throw you first. For second, and you have an 8. Looks like you're in there. And we have an oopsie. We have an oopsie here on black. Black has rolled the oopsie, and it looks like all the players come back, right? Black rolls the oopsie. He doesn't go anywhere, okay? But he forces all the other players backward according to their roll. So let's take green first. He's the bookie. How many spaces does green go back? 1. Okay, he rolled a non-double. He goes back 1. That's the oopsie. Now watch what happens to you. You go back how many spaces? 1. But when you go back 1 and land on the start position, you are whoopsie. Okay, and you need doubles to move. Okay, so you're in deep trouble. I'd like to see you get out of this. All right, here's green. Green is the bookie. Green's rolling a 7. All right, here's your rolls. And we have 5 by you and a 7 on black. This is very interesting. We have a tie on non-doubles. How many spaces do these players move? They move on a tie. They each move 1 on a non-double. Green moves up 1. Black moves up 1, okay? So we have green the bookie firing down the line here. 5 on the bookie. 5. And we have a double 3 by guess who? Double 3 on red. Great roll. How many spaces do you come out of the whoopsie space? 2. You come out 1.